I'm Scooter Pie, and thank you for joining me for this exciting new episode of Good Night with Scooter Pie. Recently, I had the pleasure of interviewing a friend of mine. She's named Jillaine Gill, and she is an actor, and she is a founding producer of the long-running, until like now, but hopefully it'll happen again, the long-running burlesque and stand-up comedy show known as Stand Up and Take Your Clothes Off, which has been going on for many years in New York City. So we talk about that. She also is a student of energy healing, so we talk about energy healing and how you can do it at home. And then we have a very interesting, long conversation that you'll be super into about the TV show Murder, She Wrote. So do stick around for all of that. So without saying anything more, please enjoy my interview with Jillaine Gill.
You look beautiful!
You look beautiful!
Thank you! So, Jillaine, you are a founding member and creator, producer, and haver of a really fantastic, phenomenal, long-running show in New York City called Stand Up and Take Your Clothes Off. And it is very unique. It is the only show that I know of, at least in New York, of its kind, in that it combines burlesque performances with female-identified stand-up comedians doing their stuff. Mm-hmm. So, how long has that show been going on for now?
It's actually been 8.5 years. As far as I know, I believe it's also the longest-running all-female comedy show.
Wow,
in New York.
In New York?
Yeah.
Considering how many comedy shows there are in New York and how big the scene is, that is really impressive. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, was this an idea for this show that you had yourself?
My original co-creator, Karen, it was actually her idea. Mm-hmm. Karen Feehan, who's a great comic. Yeah, it was her idea. She had seen me do burlesque, and she was a comic, and she just was like, oh, what if we combine the two? And yeah, I at first was not totally on board because I was like, oh, I don't know, and then because I wasn't sure if I wanted to produce burlesque, but then we started doing it, and it was great. It's been, it's been a lot of fun. We have had some shifts. Karen left the show last fall, so that's definitely been a transition, but the show's been great. The only challenge is, I think, with doing a show for so long and doing it every month, it's a lot of work and a lot of energy, goes into it, but I do love the show, and I'm not sure what the future holds for it at the moment. But I think even if it doesn't come back monthly once things, wind down, or if they ever get back to normal.
And is this the kind of first show or kind of regular event of this type that you have had experience producing? Because you have a long background as a both stage and film actor, and you've done a lot of different types of performing. But as far as producing a thing.
That was the thing. I think that's also why Karen thought I would be a good partner for it, because I started kind of producing my own theater in college, actually, and I would kind of I produced some plays and then kind of did my own. I did a couple of really crazy variety things, and then after that, my brother and I, Sean, who you know, of course, we produced some variety shows as well. So after that, and we did some with Rachel, his wife, and so I think I had actually had a long experience, or a lot of experience producing variety shows. But this is the first time I ever did straight up stand-up comedy and burlesque producing. But yeah.
So aside from being a show producer and performer and actor, you also have experience with doing energy healing work. I know that you've received it for a long time, and now you've gone on to start kind of teaching it. So how did you first get into getting energy work done?
I got into it because I was doing a one-woman show, actually, with Sean, And I think you saw that, Dreams of the Clockmaker?
Yes, I did.
Okay. It's so long ago now that, like, that's the only reason I even asked, because I was like, oh my god, that was so long ago. So I think the first time we did that was, like, oh my god, 2010 or something. We did 2 runs of it, but so the first time we did it, I was so stressed out and freaking out all the time, and just I talked to somebody who was like, they knew it was like a friend, their girlfriend at the time, and they were like, oh, you should really go meet this healer, she's amazing. And I just was like, what is energy work? I don't understand. Which is, to me now, is so funny that I was like that at the time, because it's such a big part of my life now. So I met her in her class. Her name is Emily Butler, and I would recommend anyone go to her. She's amazing. And so basically, she was teaching a class about it. I just walked in. I was late. I was freaking out. And she just was like the kindest, warmest soul, and just kind of like, come in, relax. Like, it's okay that you're late. It's fine. And you know how, like, there's so many wellness classes where, like, they get mad if you're late?
Mm-hmm.
Which I understand. Like, I understand that too. But it was just this, like, beautiful, calming moment of this person just being like, you're here and everything's perfect and I'm going to take care of you. And it was so lovely. And I went to her class. I went to a couple of her classes, and then I started doing, like, sessions with her, and it was just, like, life-changing. And I read a book by her teacher, Donna Eden, who's amazing. Like, I recommend that book so much. It's like an intro to energy medicine. It just like changes your life.
So for all of us at home who are, like, struggling in various ways with, you know, all kinds of stuff, like, I'm not saying this is any kind of substitute for actual telemedicine or therapy or your medications and all that stuff, but let's say if you're feeling a little bored and sluggish and stuff, is there an energy practice that someone can do to themselves at home right now?
I would, like, recommend for anyone to go to Donna Eden's website, and it's like Inner Source. If you just Google, like, Donna Eden Inner Source, and and look up, like, daily routine, and there will either be a video or, like, a sheet you can just download for free about, like, a daily energy routine, and that's, like, transformative, that on its own, you know.
Cool.
Like, so that's something I would, and I'm not, like, being paid to say that or anything like that. Like, it's just something that really changed my life. But one thing I could do, I would say, is, like, to weave your aura is really great. I'm trying to think how I can. So basically, if you're doing kind of like figure eights, I mean, it's more, I guess
So
that's
I
the
just
other.
go like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a full body thing, which I can't really show right now, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you, even just doing this is great. Like, if you just
Okay.
kind of, like,
Just in front of myself or around my whole body.
figure eights, like, and then, like, the edges the edges. I'm also getting
It feels
used to it.
good.
Yeah, so that's, like, we're kind of weaving part of our auras right now.
What does weaving an aura do for me?
It like protects your whole self and field. Like, I remember when my healer first, it's going to a picture of you. Oh, okay. When my healer first tested mine, she was saying that mine was, like, collapsed and detached.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was saying that's, like, going to make me feel, like, very unprotected and kind of just, like, raw and vulnerable in a way that's, like, not great.
Mm-hmm.
So if your aura is kind of, like, strong, you're going to feel, and I mean, they get weak all the time. Like, that's not, like, a judgment call or anything like that. It's more just, like, you know, like, some people, like, mine very easily collapses. And if it's strong, I have better boundaries. Like, it really helps me with my boundaries when I, like, really leave
So doing this can even be a thing a symbol to remind myself that I'm worth setting good boundaries.
Yeah, like, definitely weave your edges. Actually, I'll, like, think of you.
Like over here.
Yeah, like, the weaving the edges is really great.
What about in the back? Do I go back here too?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Back here. Get my feet.
Yeah, and you can also go really slowly sometimes. It's like, it'll make you
feel
feel
really soothing, even just to do.
Yeah. No, and the body loves figure eights. That's the other thing. Like, when in doubt, do a figure eight over it. It's like that put a bird on it sketch from like, like do a figure eight over it. That's like what I tell everyone all the time, because it's like
just in general for my energy.
Yeah, like if something is messed up, that will help.
So if I'm like feeling off, I can just do that kind of shape.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I do it like, for example, if something doesn't feel good, like if I had like an ankle that I hurt, let's say, I do a figure eight. I mean, I do other things too, of course, but like I would, in addition to whatever medical assistance I needed, I would do a figure eight over it in the air, and it is amazing sometimes. At times, like things like that really help. It's not every time, but it often. I would say in general, energy medicine can just like improve your quality of life. You know, like I'm not looking to like, I'm not going to cure someone, but I can improve their quality of life, I would say.
Right. It's just like as I've done body work, like that's not a replacement for getting medical attention. It's just like an associated treatment that can help.
Totally. No, I mean, I also believe, I mean, there are like healers, like Donna Eden, for example. She's like such a skilled healer that I think she has cured people. But even she says like she can't cure someone all the time. You know, it's more like for her, she can like actually see what's going on. Like for example, if you had like, I don't want to pick something super major, but let's say my aura was like detached. She doesn't have to test it. She can see that it's detached. Like if she looks at you, or like, okay, let's say I had a stomach ache. She could look at me and she would like see that I had a stomach ache. She wouldn't even have to test it or ask me.
Wow.
Because she like sees where the energy is, which is why she's such a powerful healer. So she could then, and her book goes into that. So like, that's how she came up with all these ways to fix things, because she learned by just trying things, and then would see how the body responded to it. So, for example, she might see that I have a stomach ache. I'm totally making up this example. And then, like, do something to it. And then she could tell you, like, oh, it's responding to what I'm doing. So you're not going to have a stomach ache anymore. Or she might be like, oh, it doesn't respond to energy. So this is, like, something you need to go to the doctor for. Anyway.
Cool. Do you believe that auras have colors?
Yeah, I think, I don't know so much about that. I also know that, like, from what I've heard, we also have, like, life colors, which is maybe what people, like, maybe that's, like, another theory that's, like, kind of the same thing about the colors. I don't know that much about it, though. But I've met Donna Eden in person, and she once told me about my life color.
What's your life color?
Well, she was saying it was blue, and it was like, it had like natural healer abilities, which was really nice. Now I feel silly. It was like very special in that moment.
That sounds beautiful. I don't think that's silly at all. I see the color blue for you because you like to wear blue eyeshadow.
Yes, that's true.
As a creative person, have you still been able to do creative work while you've been in quarantine times?
I haven't been doing, I mean, I've mostly been trying to just learn a lot right now. I did get laid off, and I've been, but I was working up until like a few weeks ago, so it's only been the last few weeks that I've really had free time. And when I'm not like, you know, looking at job searches and stuff like that, like I'm doing some online classes, which has been really great. And then I have some ideas for some like creative projects. Like, do you watch Murder, She Wrote? Have we talked about
I used to watch it when I was a kid, definitely.
Okay. Well, Murder, She Wrote is kind of like my way to get through this. It's like the only way I can fall asleep at night is watching Murder, She Wrote. Sorry, I'm like really distracted by how I look. I'm so vain. I'm like, this lighting is not good. Okay, sorry. So I've been watching Murder, She Wrote to kind of get through everything. And then, so I kept trying to come up with, like, what am I going to do about Murder, She Wrote? I have so many ideas of, like...
what am I going to do about Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah, I just feel like I want to do something with it. So I'm thinking of starting a Murder, She Wrote blog where I review each episode. I mean, I originally wanted a video component, but I just worry that I don't know yet exactly what form that would take, and that it would be a lot of stress right now because I don't really know how to edit videos and stuff like that. So I feel like a blog might be the way to start, and then maybe I could, like, go from there if I enjoyed the process and if anyone enjoyed reading it.
Well, I would love to read your Murder, She Wrote blog. So did you first watch this show when you were young, or did you discover it as an adult?
I actually did not watch it when I was young. I started watching it maybe 10 years ago or so. Joe, my partner, he loved it as a kid, and so he had it. It was on Netflix at the time. Like, every season was on Netflix. So we started watching it, and it was great, and we loved it. But then we would, like, always fall asleep. And it's nothing against the show. It's just very soothing. Like, I feel like Columbo's the same way.
Yeah.
Like, they're actually, like, they're great shows. They're interesting. But you also, there's something, at least for me, there's something about it that's, like, very comforting, and, like, I'm able to kind of, like, get in a zone where then I can fall asleep. So I had watched a lot of episodes, but not really finished any. You know what? I also had a drinking problem back then. That was the missing piece that I forgot. I think I was, like, wasted, and then that would be, like, what we would put on at the end. And then I would, like, pass out. So I no longer, well, I guess I still have a drinking problem, but I am sober. That's my point. So I've been sober for almost 3 years. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So a few years ago, we realized it was on Amazon again, and because they took it off Netflix, unfortunately. So the first 5 seasons are on Amazon Prime. And
how many seasons are there altogether?
12.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Is this all just because I haven't seen it since I was a little kid? Is it all just like that many murders are happening in this small town where Jessica Fletcher lives, like, for 12 years?
Well, they do a pretty good job. That's the thing. Like, now that I'm sober, I'm awake for a fair amount of the episode. I mean, I fall asleep as well. It is how I get to sleep, but the episodes are so interesting that I end up, like, if I miss the end, I sometimes take the next day to start the middle and, like, finish it. Like, they're actually really good mysteries. But, like, so basically Jessica begins the whole series. She becomes a successful writer, like, in her, I don't know how old she's supposed to be, like, early 60s, I guess, with the death of her husband. So they kind of present it as, because she's now a successful murder mystery writer, that her sheriff friend starts coming to her about any murders that occur. So they try to make it kind of organic. Like, oh, now that we know you're an expert on mysteries, like, perhaps you could help me with this mystery. And then the more that happens, then she becomes, like, the town expert on murders. But they also, like, make it where anytime she goes to, like, a niece or nephew's wedding, or, like, anytime she travels abroad, like, there's always a murder, and then she always, like, sticks her nose in.
Is it ever surprising, like, who did it, or is it generally pretty formulaic?
No, that's the amazing thing about it. That's what makes me really, really love it. It is, like, I mean, sometimes you can guess, but you know how, like, generally shows have it where it has to be one person because everybody else is either, like, an obvious red herring or, like, couldn't have done it, and then they pick, like, this person who's the perfect, like, combo of, like, it's a mystery who they are, but also, like, what a shock, you know what I mean? I feel like Murder, She Wrote is amazing in that they genuinely are well written. Like, there's never, like, a really annoying red herring. Like, I mean, sometimes there are red herrings, but it's, like, really well done. And there's always, I think the difference is there's always a really well thought out reason why somebody killed someone. Like, it's very specific. And then I've rewatched so many episodes. So, like, if you rewatch episodes, you can see from the beginning, like, the clues, which is always, like, a great mystery. But it's never, like, a really annoying, like, ending that's like, oh, so-and-so was the killer. I mean, occasionally...
Which we see sometimes on, like, Law and Order, where it just is someone really annoying and it's not satisfying. So with Murder, She Wrote, it's different than Columbo, right? Because we are experiencing, like, the mystery as it unfolds. We don't know ahead of time who the killer
Right.
is.
Exactly. And I really think it's, like, one of the best shows of its type. And also they don't shy away from, like, sometimes Jessica's friends are the killers, but it's never, like, really, you know, I guess that's the thing. Whenever they have that happen on, like, other shows, it's always like suddenly the best friend's insane. It's like the mask is ripped off and suddenly they're like, actually I was a psycho the whole time. You know what I mean? And on Murder, She Wrote, it's very like, yeah, like so and so, they were blackmailing me and I didn't know what to do, but you got me, Jessica. You know what I mean? Like there's actually really good reasons usually. I mean, I'm not saying there's good reasons to kill someone. I'm just saying.
Is she shown experiencing, like, trauma and, like, you know, the kind of fallout from having her friends be murderers? Or does she kind of
she does, like, a really funny... Let me see if I can do it. I'm going to look at myself. She's always like... Like, when she finds out, like... That's the perfect... Thank you. I feel like my acting did a good job because that's the word I was looking for.
I'm here. My battery's low. That's okay.
It's okay. She is, like, disappointed in you. She understands, but she's not going to take it on. She's too strong to take it on, but she's feeling a real pang of, like, I wish you weren't a murderer, and I'm going to have to turn you in. That's the thing. She has a real code of conduct about her. She follows her own rules. Also, she finds out she finds out her friends are having affairs.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and they'll be like, can't you keep my secret? And she'll be like, I'm so sorry, Karen, but I just can't do that.
Where is this show streaming now? You said it's not on Netflix anymore?
No, it's on, the first 5 seasons are on Amazon Prime, but they now have commercials for some reason. They're part of some, like, IMDb thing, but it's still like great. If you have Amazon Prime, it's still like good to have. But Sean bought me the DVD set.
Oh, how fantastic.
Yeah.
Are there good guest stars? Like 80s delicious guest stars?
Yes. Although what's funny is I think often they are not actually famous at the time. Or, I mean, that's not true. There are people who were big at the time, I think. But sometimes you'll find, like, somebody when they're really young or something. I'm trying to think. Well, somebody who was already famous at the time, I would say. It was like Florence Henderson plays her best friend at one point.
Ooh, that's interesting casting.
Yeah. And she plays like a country star. That's actually a really good episode. And then I'm trying to think who else. You know who was really great guest stars though was Columbo.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of because I've seen a bunch of episodes of that much more recently.
Yeah, no, that's such a good one. Like, especially because I think Columbo has more, like, bigger guest stars because it's almost like mini movies, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's only so many. Like, Columbo didn't... Like, Murder, She Wrote has, like, 20-some episodes a season. Like, I think aren't there only, like, 30 to 40 Columbos total?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's because I think I've seen them all. Because that was another one that I used to watch to not stress out. And I've seen, like, every episode of Columbo multiple times. So I think there's only, like, 35 episodes total of Columbo over, like, 30 years. Like, there's a 90s one at a rave.
That's amazing. I have not seen that one.
Yeah,
so do you think that one day you might like to do kind of like a live stage show inspired by Murder, She Wrote?
That's an interesting idea. I like that idea. I worry about how I guess I just don't know what I would be doing. But I definitely like that idea. Like, I definitely have tried to think of different creative projects that could incorporate my love of Murder, She Wrote. But it's just, like, I think right now the blog is at least a way to get myself started. But yeah, maybe.
Will you just start with the like first episode and then just go all the way through?
I think so. I think maybe what I would do would be kind of talking about it as my own, like trying to do it. Well, I don't know. Maybe I would just straight up review it. I'm still working out the details. But like something really beautiful about it is like the first episode, for example, like because I had seen so many episodes later, and then to really start again with the first episode recently, um, it was really, it was actually like really inspiring to watch because in the very first episode, Jessica's actually like very unsure of herself. And she doesn't even submit her novel herself, like her nephew does for her. And she's very flustered and she goes through all these like New York interviews and she's totally like not comfortable and is very distressed. And it was actually really great to watch because in later Murder She Wrote, she's like such a pro. And I feel like it's really lovely because they make it where every episode, even if she's like in Paris, every person has heard of her and is like respects her. And I feel like to have an older woman character who just became famous when she was in her 60s, it's like very groundbreaking.
That's very inspiring. Well, I know, like, I had no idea when I was a kid that Angela Lansbury had, and this was before she was in Beauty and the Beast, had this huge, like, stage and film career for so long and was considered, at, one point kind of an ingenue. Because I just knew her as this one character, and I liked knowing her as this one character because she was so comforting and because she was so good at it. So I think we need more of that today. 'Cause I can't, off the top of my head, think of like modern day TV shows that feature an over 50 leading character. So there need to be more. So in 20 years, you and I can play them.
Yes, totally.
But it's interesting. I know a comfort show for so many people is Golden Girls. That's another one that I watched every episode as they aired in real time on television on Friday nights because that was my life. And it's weird to go back and watch it and realize that like they weren't that old. They were like in their 50s and 60s, which is not old. Yeah. And at the time when I was a child, I thought they were ancient. And if that show was to be rebooted, which I hope it never is, like women who are that age, they look a lot different now.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I think that's the thing. Like, it is possible in Murder She Wrote, maybe she is supposed to be in her 50s in the beginning. It's just that I think it's not because I mean Angela Lansbury actually looks great. I mean she looks amazing now. Like she's in like her 90s, I think now, right? Like her 80s or 90s. Mm-hmm. It has to be because Murder She Wrote was really good. But yeah, it's possible she was even in her 50s at the time, but it's just like women in their 50s now have such a different presentation than like women in their 50s and 60s, like in the 80s, I guess.
Because now we feel more pressure to have to look young.
Yeah. I think also they used to almost like convince you to look older when you were...
That's true. It did seem like, once you're over 40, you chop your hair off and you wear a baggy sweater. Meanwhile, I'm over 40, and I normally wouldn't have gray roots. So let's all write more roles for women over 40 that are not like, necessarily hypersexual, but aren't like frumpy either, that are just complex and multi-layered, just like us and our 7 layers of energy that we have inside of us. Thank you so much, Jillaine. I loved getting to talk to you. I loved the surprise that our discussion got to take. Where can we all find you online?
Probably the best place these days is Instagram. And it's just Jillaine Gill is my how to find me. It's JILLAINE GILL. And then there's also Stand Up and Take Your Clothes Off Instagram, but I do not update it as much as I should, but it's Suatyco, SUATYCO.
Awesome, and hopefully one day we'll all get to do that show again, because I was co-host with you this month.
I know. We need to and I love having you so much, and we'll definitely, eventually we'll have it, and even if it's not monthly, we'll have eventually we'll co-host together.
Yes. And in the meantime, we have this.
Yes.
So thank you, and I'm going to turn off the recording now.
Okay, bye.